Senator Chris McDaniel joins me, state senator from the great state of Mississippi. How you doing, Chris?
Hi, Lars. Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. You know, there are few weeks that I do not think about the time that Tina and I went down to Mississippi to try to make things right and get you into the United States Senate, but I'm glad to see you serving your state in the state Senate as well. It's a pleasure to have you back on the program. What's been going on?
Man, just fighting a good fight. You know, we're fighting for conservatives. We're trying to do the best thing we can to break up the establishment. And by the way, thank you for everything you did for me back in 2014. I will never forget you, and it meant the world to me that you would come down here, and it was hot. Remember, really hot in Mississippi. So the fact that you came down and were a part of that, I'm forever grateful to you.
It was a real pleasure for both of us. Tina talks about it from time to time, and I'll tell you what, we'd be glad to come back. That you live in a great state that is maligned far too often. So how are you planning to get into the U.S. Senate now? Because you got a plan to make this happen, right?
Yes, sir. Look, I'm the only conservative in the race. I'm the only lifetime Republican in the race. And if you think about how this is shaken out, we're fighting the establishment. We're trying to drain the swamp. We're trying to do the right thing for a change. The only way to do that is to learn to send fighters to Washington, D.C. And right now, we're running against a series of Democrats here in the state, and that has to change. Mississippi needs to be a conservative state. I tell you something, Lars. We can't send conservatives to the United States Senate from a state like Mississippi. Where are we going to find conservatives? California is not going to do it. New York's not going to do it. Massachusetts can't do it. It has to be Mississippi and places like Mississippi. So we're just fighting a good fight and trying to find people like Mike Lee and Rand Paul and Ted Cruz to lead this U.S. Senate toward a conservative direction.
I'm talking to Chris McDaniel, who's a state senator now, but running for the United States Senate. He's done this before, and he should have replaced Thad Cochran. But now he's got the chance to finally get into the place he's always, should have been. The problem is people like Mitch McConnell, who I consider just barely a Republican, and he usually makes me mad at least 2 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week. He's actually got somebody picked out that he'd like to see be the replacement instead of you. Tell me about Cindy Hyde-Smith.
Well, Mitch McConnell came down and struck a deal, and Cindy Hyde-Smith was Mitch McConnell's personal pick for that position to fulfill the remainder of Thad Cochran's term. The problem is Cindy Hyde-Smith is a lifelong Democrat. She served 3 terms in the state Senate as a Democrat. It came out recently she voted for Hillary Clinton in the election. Making matters worse, I think, she just received more than $250,000 in campaign contributions from a guy named Sean Parker. You might remember this guy of Facebook fame. He's the big liberal that fought for Hillary Clinton. It was Hillary Clinton's biggest campaign contributor. Just so happens it's also Cindy Hyde-Smith's biggest campaign contributor. So we're fighting the Democrats here in a state where Republicans should be conservative and should be leading the charge. But Mitch McConnell, he comes down, he interferes. They select Cindy Hyde-Smith because she's going to follow Mitch's directions. And we've got to shake things up, Lars. Now's the time for change in Washington.
Well, and this is what floors me about McConnell. He doesn't seem to be able to get the Senate to work on any kind of serious schedule. And I mean, I will have to give him that Trump has more federal judges appointed and confirmed than I think the last 2 presidents put together, and that's a plus, and that has to come through the Senate. But the rest of the Senate's business has seemed to, go nowhere under Mitch McConnell. And he's incredibly frustrating for real conservatives in this country because he seems to be either a country club Republican or the kind of guy who only backs country club Republicans. And it really hurts the ability of the Senate to get things done.
Right. We've got this golden opportunity with Trump as president to pass a conservative agenda. President Trump has proposed an agenda, but it's stalling in the Senate. Mitch McConnell is a big part of that problem. He's not pushing the agenda. Mitch McConnell loves the swamp. He needs the swamp to maintain the status quo. Consequently, he doesn't do anything that pushes a conservative agenda forward. So we need real change, and it starts with the leadership, obviously, but it also means we have to pass Trump's agenda. And that's not getting done in the U.S. Senate right now.
No, and that's been the big hang-up. We can get a lot of things done in the House. I mean, for example, the House has had, the whole time Trump's been in office, they've had a bill for nationwide reciprocity, which matters a lot to concealed carriers like me. I'd like to have, I'm going on a summer vacation later on, and I'd like to be able to take my pistol with me. I can't because I have to figure out which states I'm qualified in and which states I'm not. pass that bill. And everybody I talk to say there are plenty of votes in the House to pass it. And I'd love to see the Democrats forced to vote against it before this fall's election. They say, but it's dead in the Senate because McConnell can't get it done. That guy can't seem to get anything done.
Well, it's a simple procedural fix. He never articulates a conservative message. He's never willing to fight for our standards, our principles. It's always surrender. It's always compromise. And then he hides behind this 60-vote filibuster requirement. That is a rule of the Senate. He could change that at any moment if he were so inclined. We have the numbers. The Republicans control the Senate. It's almost as if they're afraid of taking tough votes. It's almost as if they're afraid of fighting the Democrats. But I'm telling you, if we can't fight the Democrats with the Republican Party, we're never going to defeat them. There's two avenues here. They have a bus they're driving. We have a bus we're driving. We've got to use the Republican Party to put an end to liberalism wherever we sense it. Mitch McConnell could do that. If he just would do it, he just won't take action.
You know what I want? I want people to understand. It's not just fear. Because if it were just fear, we could get people with backbone. But I think people in the Senate right now want to keep their Senate seats so badly. I mean, it's like being a Roman senator. You get this nice office. You're in Washington, D.C. Everybody's deferential to you. And if you never have to make a tough call on a bill or vote for something that's the right thing to vote for, but you know it might make some people unhappy, if you never have to take those votes, you may be able to hang on to your Senate seat for term after term after term. And I think that's what it is. It's not just fear. It's also greed. It's saying, I want to hang on to power and position and prestige and a title and all the rest of that. And if I have to take votes, then I may have to lose that. So, Chris, tell my audience how they can help you out and where they can find out more about your great conservative positions on the issues. What's the website?
Hey, come to McDaniel2018.com. That's McDaniel2018.com. I would love to have your help. Come see my positions. I've been a state senator for many years now. I'm the most conservative state senator in the state. I'm very proud of that. My record speaks for itself. And, guys, it's time to shake up Washington, D.C., but I can't do it unless I have your help.
Chris, we're glad to help you out, and thank you so much. State Senator Chris McDaniel running for the U.S. Senate in the great state of Mississippi.